Hey everyone, I'm Don Kamen with Price Modern, and this is the Designer Studio. And we're in a familiar setting. We're on Zoom. But it's still the same show, and you know what we do? We get a rock star designer from our market, and we have a little chat, and then we ask them the five. And today, our rock star is Dan Niemuth with HYL Architecture, designer there. Dan, welcome to the Designer Studio.
Don, thanks for having me.
And thanks for being our first Zoom version of this. Hopefully we can get back to just the good old-fashioned studio soon. But you're a sport for coming in and doing this today. And we did have a chance to chat, as always do with the designers, before we got together here to record. And you didn't start out in the design path. You started studying something else, something very different before turning to design.
Yeah, that's correct. I started out with international relations. I was pursuing a journalism degree of sorts. My whole thing was traveling, just seeing different things, learning everything I can, just being a sponge, really.
Yeah, but you still get to travel, I'm sure. Well, not right now, but prior to all of this and post all of this, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so does travel inspire you with design? It must.
Oh, definitely. I think, I don't know, we're just so interconnected as a globe, clearly. As you know, we have seen everything unfold with COVID. I think we have that platform, the internet, that really lets us see different things and different perspectives. And I think that's where I was going with my initial degree choice, was understanding people's different perspectives. But I think that really, the love and interest in art and design dictated obviously where I ended up here. But I think it's a really beautiful blend between the two worlds, actually. So living the best of both worlds.
Really interesting, because I would not have initially thought of them as blending, but absolutely do. And here you are now, designer, but now designing from home, which I'm sure has its own set of challenges. But you've kind of mentioned a few little tips and tricks and things that have helped you, because I always wondered, especially interior design, there's so much materiality and things that it must be difficult to do it virtually.
Yeah, it really is. It is difficult if you think of it, but we have this amazing platform that we've been using. It's called Material Banks, and I keep calling it the Amazon of the material world. It is an online platform that we use, and you can go through and cycle through fabrics, wall coverings, metals, flooring, and you can literally get things sent to your house next day. I know a lot of us in our small little apartments or wherever we are, we just have stacks and mounds of material. So, it's business as usual for us every day. Nothing has really changed in that aspect, and I think that was our goal ultimately.
That's great.
The client doesn't feel any difference.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think we've all sort of surprised ourselves with this learned mobility and with how capable we really are at doing our jobs, even when they involve materials and from remote locations. So that's great. Material bags, I had not heard of that prior to our conversation. Is that something you had used before all of this, or?
So yeah, I was actually introduced to it, my gosh, when was this? Maybe 6 months ago. We had a representative come in and talk to us about it, but I actually saw it at Niemuth. They had a whole booth set up, and it was kind of their, I don't want to say flagship. What is that? Like their something soft opening kind of thing, where it was a soft opening of a workshop space, and literally just had the walls. All of them. Their idea is they're going to have the same module for each fabric piece, and you go around and you can scan what you want at their little booths or their showrooms, and you can get those things delivered to you. So it was really cool to see it there, but then also when the representative came in and walked us through like the technical side of everything, it's so streamlined, and it's really been helpful.
That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know the drill. Now we get to the five.
Yes.
Those five same questions we ask every designer, starting with what's your favorite color and ending with if you could design anything, anything at all, what would you design? So we'll start with the easy one. Dan, what's your favorite color?
Cobalt blue, representing again.
There it is. There it is. Knew ahead of time, wearing the color. Well, fantastic.
Exactly.
Very good color. And how about your favorite material?
Currently, plate metal. So like really thin, detailed plate metal. Again, currently, it changes.
And currently, okay, so that does change. Do you remember what your last favorite material was?
Honestly, it was probably this really cool. It's like almost like a plywood wall covering, so like a perforated wood wall covering. It's what I found. It's called. It's a product from Spinny Back. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
So a shift from a wood type material to a metal material. Big shift. That's good, and we'll see what's next.
Exactly.
Okay, and so who is your greatest design influence, you'd say, or who is your greatest design influence?
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have one particular individual. I think more or less they're movements that I've been interested in and that have really helped drive my personal aesthetic and design and what I find interesting. So I know that international style is really important, and to me at least, and I really value a lot of the foundations behind that. But I think that could also trickle into like modernism or even deconstructivism, and even like brutalist architecture. Those are just some of the highlights that I really enjoy personally, the philosophies and the makeup behind them.
Brutalist architecture.
Brutalist, I know.
So what's a good example of that?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that question. I don't know if I have one particular thing that I would hone in on, because some of them can get really intense. But I think there's definitely something really beautiful about their articulation, just personal. I don't have one particular building. Okay.
Well, so is there an example of architecture or design that kind of stands out in your mind as inspiring? Or?
Yeah, I've always really valued the Salk Institute in La Jolla by Louis Kahn. I just think that the connection between site and building and just how the overall plan laid out, I think
yeah. That's always brilliant when that connection is done really well. Yeah. Yep. Fantastic. Okay, well, here's the big one. If you could design anything at all, doesn't have to be architecture, doesn't have to be an interior, anything. If you could design anything, what would you like to design?
I'm going to be boring with it. Airports, maybe in another life. Airport design would be something I would be interested in. I think it goes back to that cross-section of personalities and perspectives. You know, people are either traveling somewhere fun, not always fun, but traveling, going somewhere new, or either going home. And I think it's a really important segue for people.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed because they really are typically a great balance or a puzzle of form and function, right? I mean, there's a massive amount of function that has to happen there to move millions of people through, and bags and flow and traffic and everything. But I tip my hat to a lot of the major airports who also balance with these pretty beautiful, inspiring, calming spaces. It wasn't always the way. I remember going into a few airports that lacked any inspiration, but that's amazing. Yeah, no, I think there are some great examples of that tremendous blend of form and function, and that would be a challenge. I hope you have the opportunity.
Thanks.
Well, this is great, and again, I really appreciate you joining me on Zoom and answering the 5 and being. You know, it's always interesting. We're just in our little people boxes. I keep saying every day is sort of like the introduction to the Brady Bunch. I just see a whole bunch of people in their boxes.
I've never really thought of it that way. That's a good way to look at it.
They were ahead of their time. They didn't even know it. Well, it's great. And thank you all for joining us. And if you want to learn more about Dan, please visit HYLarchitecture.com. And of course, if you want to learn more about Price Modern, that's pricemodern.com. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Designer Studio.